Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Rykart, Interpeas, Lori Sutton, Cheryl. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we are doing trivia about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Pray for Morocco. Yeah, the devastating not hurricane, but earthquake. That I was reading about that in the news earlier. Pigeon Mac, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I was reading also an article about Death Valley. In case you're not familiar with Death Valley, where that is located in the United States, they've gotten more rain in Death Valley this year than they have gotten in the last 20 years. More rain already at this point, and this isn't. We're just now getting into the wettest part of the year for Death Valley. But more rain than they've gotten in a long, long time. Mike Stevens, good evening. Alabad Akbar. Allah Akbar. Mike. Sal, good evening, Sal. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Sassy Cassie, good evening and welcome, Sassy Cassie. Scrolling through the comments that are here already. Gonna give it about 3 more minutes and then we'll get the trivia started. Waiting for everybody to join. Mary Frederick, good evening. Kitty Coo, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Well, we got 15 in here right now. That's a pretty good grouping for the trivia just starting. Glad everyone could make it tonight. Ooh, that's the wrong one. Clicked on the wrong tab. Get too many tabs open. Samantha Mr. McDowell, I'm in bed, half asleep, but I've hit the thumbs up. Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate it. Mustard. Did everybody have a good weekend now? I hope you did. Hope you're able to stay safe wherever you may be. You ever do a 9/11 show about the disaster? The September 11th disaster? No, I've never done one in trivia about that, Mike. It's kind of a controversial subject matter. A lot of people don't either. There are some people out there that believe that one way or another. So it's really divided, and a lot of it is political in nature. And I try to stay away from politics. Cement Shoes, good evening. These murderers' facial features turn into a look-alike monsters. Yeah. Wow, Sassy Cassie, in 8 seconds, we're going to start. 8 seconds. 2 seconds. All right, let's get trivia going. Tonight, all the questions are on Richard Ramirez, The Night Stalker. It should go without saying, but I have to say this every time I do a live stream, and I will eventually have to put it in every video that I do. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some of the content and pictures you may see on this channel and on this stream may not be suitable for all audiences or for all people. It is not meant as education or entertainment for anyone under the age of 13. So viewer discretion is strongly advised. We are playing for fun only. No one is any better at this game than another person. You can keep score if you want, but you don't have to. It's completely optional. It's just for education. Hateful or degrading remarks towards another person playing will get you removed. There is a total of 18 questions, including the 2 bonus questions. These questions are not exploitive of the victims or their families. These are for educational. It's like learning about history. History is not exploitive of what happened in the past. We are learning something new, hopefully. Relax, have fun. Question number 1. Richard Ramirez, as a young man, didn't have an easy life growing up. The youngest of 5 children, Richard often caught the short end of his father's temper. What did Richard do to escape the violence? Was it A, he murdered his father? B, he slept in the cemetery at night? C, he ran away from home at age 8? Or D, he took a lot of LSD, the drug? Scout Inquirer, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Amelia, good evening. Welcome. I got scared too. Short Nice, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Ghost Fart, did I scare you? E, unleashed a mountain lion on his father. That's a good one, 11-5. Catherine Maloney, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Welcome, Lieutenant RN. Welcome to tonight's trivia. And I know my camera is not on right now. I am working on turning that on. I have too many tabs open. I'm closing them, making sure I save my progress on them before I close the tabs. So I'll turn it on in just a minute. And here I am. I'm in my little window. All right. Question number 1. Richard Ramirez, as a young man, didn't have it easy growing up. The youngest of 5 children, Richard's father often took his temper out on poor little Richard. What did Richard do to escape the violence? The correct answer to question number 1, ladies and gentlemen, is B as in boy. He ran away from home and slept in the cemetery at night. He actually slept inside of a building that was kind of covered to kept him out of the elements, or he would just find a nice grassy area to lay down in. Starting at the age of 8, he did that. But he didn't run away from home as if he ran away from home and never came back. He would come back during the daytime and he'd, clean up, eat, go to school. But he slept in the cemetery at night to avoid his father's wrath when his father came home from work. His father was a former law enforcement officer, and well, didn't keep his job very long in that career because of his temper. Carly. Oh yeah, his cousin killed someone in front of him as a kid. All right, question number 2. At the age of 10, Richard bonded with his older cousin Miguel Mike Ramirez, looking to him as a father. He was no role model, though. What did his cousin often show him pictures of? Was it A, Polaroids of women he raped and killed? B, Polaroids of dead VC Viet Cong? C, Polaroids of dead animals? Or D, Polaroids of women tied up? What did his cousin Miguel Mike Ramirez do? Show him pictures of. We learned to be streetwise. You did. I used to go hide at a college next door, but I didn't grow up to be a serial killer. I used to play in a cemetery as a kid. And the reason why we played in the cemetery was because it was the biggest grassy area near our home. There were no parks. A lot of homes, but no parks. And there was a giant cemetery. So we used to go to the cemetery to throw the football or baseball around. And the people there never bothered us. So we always played hide and seek in a cemetery at night. There you go. B, beheaded. Question number 2. Richard Ramirez's cousin. What did he show him Polaroids of? Carla's going with B. Lori Sutton, D. Mary Frederick, C. Because it was spooky, kids like things like that. Spooky. I'm sure we played hide and seek in the cemetery. I mean, we lived in town. We lived in St. Paul, Minnesota. I can't remember the name of the cemetery though. It was just off of Sycamore, but I can't remember the name of it though. We lived right across the street from the Catholic Church, and there's a giant cemetery there. So, yeah, that's where we went and played. The only one we played in had pre-Civil War graves. Was pretty cool, actually. Oh, that's cool. We played in the cemetery too, a very old one. I don't remember the tombstones all that well. If maybe there were Civil War soldiers there, I don't remember. I mean, we used to go down and try to walk up and down the rows of just it's how we entertained ourselves. Was walking down the rows to see if what was the oldest grave we could find. We'd pick a different section of the cemetery and go walk down the. Oh, look, this one died in 1700. Don't remember too much of them. Vietnam veteran cousin. All right, question number 2. The correct answer is A as in apple. Polaroids of women he raped and killed. His cousin killed his wife, shot her once in the head, and with Richard being right there. And he was found not guilty by reason of mental defect. And he was sent to a mental insanity, insane asylum or state hospital. But he was absolutely batshit nuts. And I don't like to make fun of people with mental health issues, but Miguel Mike Ramirez was completely out of his gourd. After he came back from, he was in Vietnam and he served, I think, 2 tours in Vietnam, but his brain was not here in reality. And the argument that supposedly he got into with his wife, where he ended up killing her, was over something just very petty. It wasn't like, oh my God, I have, she upset him so bad, like, she was having an affair or something like that. It was a very petty argument, and then he went and got his rifle and shot her once right in the head in front of little Richard. Then he spent the rest of his life, locked up. Never had a chance. Lovely role model, right? Nice family. Yeah. All right. Question number 3. As his crime spree went on, Richard became unsteadily uncomfortable in the victims' homes, spending hours after killing them. What did he like to do after murdering the victims, or should be victim or victims? What did he like to do immediately after killing the people where he broke into their homes? What did he like to do next? Was it A, take a shower, B, make himself a snack, C, write a satanic note on the wall, or D, take photos of the victims? What did Richard like to do after killing the victim? What did he like to do next? Good evening, Mary. Welcome to tonight's trivia. E, he watched the Jersey Shore with them. Starfire is born with B as well. If I missed you earlier, Starfire, good evening and welcome to tonight's trivia. What did Richard like to do after dispatching his victims? That's what he said, his words, in his confession. He called it dispatching them. Never used the word murder until later on in his confessions. He said he dispatched them from this earth. That was one of his an exact quote. I'm killing. I guess all that killing makes you hungry. E, watch Dancing with the Stars. Dancing with the Stars. I think I watched like maybe 2 episodes of that, of the very first season, Dancing with the Stars. It's not typically something that I watch. Somebody else was watching it. I think my wife or my daughter was watching it. And I just happened to be in the same room. And I was like, kind of watch it. He would have taken a shower. He should have taken a shower. All right. Question number 3. What did he like to do after dispatching the victims? The correct answer is B, as in boy. Make himself a snack. And this wasn't just a little snack. 2 different victims, he ate every single item in their refrigerator. And it wasn't just a couple of items. He ate so much, he threw up all over the kitchen floor after eating everything that they had. It was like, he murdered them, and then he went into a manic mode where he would make himself something to eat, but he got so comfortable being in their homes because, well, who's going to come? He already knew who lived there. And if somebody came and knocked on the door, he'd just go out the back or out the window, or however he made his entry to the home. But he became so comfortable, he'd be there for hours afterwards. It's like, I've already killed the husband and the wife, and I killed, him, and I made her watch it. Whatever he wanted to do. It wasn't always the same thing. Sometimes he toyed with them and tortured them for hours before he actually dispatched them. And other times it was very quick, and he did it, in his way, probably what he thought was the most, humane way. Sick, sadistic psychopath, Richard Ramirez. Question number 4. Question 4. Before Richard Ramirez was given the title by the media, the Night Stalker, there was another Night Stalker who was also called the Diamond Knot Killer. Who was this serial killer? Was it A, Ed Kemper, B, William Bonin, C, Joseph D'Angelo, or D, Charles Ning? Who was the original Night Stalker? Dee. Good evening, Dee. Welcome to tonight's trivia, Dee. And yes, Richard is dead. Richard Ramirez died June 7th, 2013. June 7th, 2013. I knew it was in June. I just wasn't sure about the date that he passed. June 7th. Before Richard Ramirez was given the title by the media as the Night Stalker, there was another Night Stalker who is also called the Diamond Knot Killer. Who was this serial killer? Good evening, Claudia. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. All right, question number 4. The correct answer is C, as in cat. Joseph D'Angelo, the BTK killer, was originally called the Night Stalker and the Diamond Knot Killer. He was the original Night Stalker, and then they gave the title to Richard Ramirez. All right, question number 5. During Richard Ramirez's killing spree in 1985, he really didn't have a home or apartment. Instead, he preferred to stay in dive hotels and motels. Which famous hotel did he like to stay in for just $14 a night? Was it A, the Western Hotel, B, Super 8 because they keep the light on, or C, the Davenport Hotel, or D, the Cecil Hotel? During his killing spree in 1985, Richard didn't have a home. He preferred to stay in dive motels and hotels. Which one did he like to stay in? E, Hotel California. E, Mountain Lion Hotel. Mountain Lion Hotel. The Western, Super 8, the Davenport, or the Cecil? Right card's going with D, of course. All right, question number 5. The correct answer is D as in dog. D as in dog. He stayed in the Cecil Hotel for $14 a night. He preferred to stay in rooms that faced the main street, and not one room in particular, but the Cecil Hotel says that he stayed in one room more than any other room in a Cecil Hotel, one that faced Main Street. All right, question number 6. He is in Hotel California right now as we speak. You can check in, but you can never leave. Question number 6. When arrested, Richard tried to fight but had a slight boo-boo on his head and a cracked rib. Vigilantes beat the snot out of him. Who was the arresting officer? Was it A, Joseph D'Angelo, B, Mark Furman, C, Andy Ramirez, or D, David Ramirez Buckner? Who was the arresting officer after the vigilantes, of course, did their little deed to him? Good evening, Purple. How are you doing, sweetheart? I hope your husband's doing good or better. I hope there's an improvement. TTQ, I have no clue, though. When arrested, Richard tried to fight but had a slight boo-boo on his head and a cracked rib. E, Judge Dredd. Vigilantes beat the snot out of him. He is D-Law. Who was the arresting officer of Richard Ramirez? Question number 6. Old and steady. Well, that's good, Purple. I would hope that for improvement, and we'll keep your husband in our prayers. All right, question 6. The correct answer is C, as in cat. Andy Ramirez. No relation to Richard Ramirez's family at all. But Andy Ramirez was the arresting officer. He had to they were holding Richard down after they beat the snot out of him. And he came in, put the cuffs on Richard Ramirez, and took him down to the police station, probably saving his life, because if he wouldn't have shown up, when he did, well, Richard probably would have, he would have been dispatched, as he would have said, from the crowd of vigilantes who were beating the crap out of him. But Andy Ramirez was the arresting officer, C as in cat. All right, question 7. His creepy smile and missing teeth are what people remember about Richard when they see him. One key piece of evidence at his trial was he wasn't in he wasn't in El Paso, Texas. Should be El Paso, Texas. The day of the murders. What tied him to LA on the date of the murders of all 14 of the victims? Was it A, his DNA was at every crime scene? B, he left his name behind at each crime? C, he confessed to another killer? Or D, dental office visits placed him there? His alibi, he said, I wasn't there. I was in El Paso, Texas when these people were murdered. What placed him in LA on the date of the murders of all 14 victims? His dad tried to lie for him. He did. His dad was an awful liar, too. He couldn't remember the same story twice. And when they went back to, asked him at the same time, about his alibi, about being, where he was, supposedly in El Paso visiting his brother. His father couldn't remember the same thing just 10 minutes after he said it, or 5 minutes later. He was a terrible liar. They followed his stitch. He was auditioning for Dancing with the Stars. Eric Estrada. His creepy smile and missing teeth are what people remember about Richard when they see him. Where was he? What tied him to the actual date? The locations of all 14 victims. A and D, says Reichart, is DNA and dentist. 1985. 86. When did he go to trial? It was in the later part of the 80s, I believe. Lieutenant RN's going with C. Pigeon Mac A. All survivors said he smelled horrible and his teeth was like death. Wait, 85, no DNA. What tied him to LA on the date of the murders of all 14 of the victims? Pigeon Mac D? Question mark? All right. The correct answer for question 7 is D as in dog. And here's something that you might find absolutely interesting. Richard Ramirez had several dental appointments. He has complete dentures. He just refused to wear them in court because it creeped out the rest of the people who were watching it, the actual court case. He refused to wear them. He wouldn't smile to the jury. He wouldn't look at the jury at all. He looked down or he looked straight ahead. The only time he put his dentures in, excuse me, was when he had to stand and look at the jury as they were reading the verdict, for him. But he only wore it one time, wore them once in court. But he didn't have to wear them. He could have just showed him just how much of a creepy looking dude he was. To make him creepy, that's true. Sorry about that. Let me to cough into the microphone there. Okay, question number 8. Of the 14 crime locations where he murdered and tortured his victims, how many of those locations did Richard Ramirez paint or make a pentagram on the wall or floor? Was it A, all 14 of them, B, 2 of the 14, C, 1 of the 14, or D, 8? We know as even the artist rendering that you see here, Richard Ramirez had carved and actually made a pentagram on his hand. But how many of the locations did he actually put a pentagram? Hey, with question 8, and there's the 144,000. There we go. Was it 14 out of 14, 2 out of 14, 1 out of 14, or 8 out of 14? How many of them did he actually paint or make a pentagram on the wall or floor? We got a little bit of everything. A, B, C's. I think I saw a D as well. Yep. JDR. Good evening, JDR. Welcome to tonight's trivia. And some E's. Yeah, and some E's. Yes, we definitely get our E's. They keep it interesting. Of the 14 crime locations where he murdered and tortured his victims, how many of those locations did Richard Ramirez paint or make a pentagram on the wall or floor? The correct answer to question 8 is C as in cat. Only one location did he ever paint or make a pentagram on the wall or floor. One. But every single one of the locations, he left a message on the wall, painted it, used a marker, lipstick. He used something to leave a message behind for the authorities when they finally would find the victim. But only once did he ever make a pentagram. His interest in the occult and into Satanism goes all the way back to when he was in high school. According to a friend that he had from high school, Richard was always interested in it as long as he could remember, but he never knew if Richard actually started practicing devil worshiping, Satanism, or if it was just something that he was just interested in. But only one location did he ever leave a pentagram behind. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to that point in the show where we take a break. We are now going to be on break for the next 6 minutes. Go get yourself something to drink, something to eat. If you want, use the facilities. Smoke a bowl. I don't care. You do you. Just keep your hands inside the ride at all times. Don't be a daredevil like Earl and Earl Jr. His pick just makes me think of Mortal Kombat. Finish him. I can't handle the truth in true crime. Must be E. There you go. Very inventive answers. Letter E. Oh my God. He put his hand in his cell. That's where I got 2. Or I'm just trying to get over being wrong. 11 E's. Did we have 11 E's already? That's cool. Can we make his picture smaller, Will? Well, the picture it will be is different on the next 8 questions. I know he is kind of creepy looking, but that's not even a photo. That's an artist's rendering of him. Break time. Yes, 6-minute break. We got another 4 minutes. He put one on his hand. Yes, true. And in his cell, where I got 2, or am I just trying to get over being wrong? Kitty Q, you would be absolutely right there about his actual jail cell in his hand. That would be 2. But we were looking for the crime locations where he murdered people. He only put 1 pentagram ever at one of the crime scenes. Of the 14 murdered and tortured victims, their homes, he only drew or painted 1 pentagram. Will, did you get your race car email? Oh yes, Kitty Q. The picture. Yes, I did. That's a pretty cool looking car. Wish I had something like that. But I wouldn't know what to do with it either. I've been working on restoring, this 1971 Ford F100. I'm on year 3 right now, but it takes time. Ground up restoration for the entire thing. Took the bed, the cab, everything right off it from the frame up. I had the frame. They used I think walnut shells, media blasted it. Then I had it powder coated. It's still sitting in pieces in the other garage. I'll get there though. A lot of time and a lot of money. Every once in a while, I go in there and I just kind of tinker around with something. I got to order an electrical harness. This is the next thing I have to order from LCM or LMC, the truck company. LCM, LMC. I can't remember. It's those 3 letters, but I'm probably mixing them up in their order. Look at how women chased after him, and heck, Doreen married him. Yeah, I know, right? No, my dad had to sell it after having neck surgery. He just couldn't race anymore. It happens. Just about everybody I know who was once into racing has gotten out of it as a hobby. All right, we have 16 seconds left. Nope, sorry. 10 seconds. Yeah, there were a lot of women who wrote Richard and wanted to be his his wife, his girlfriend, his significant other. A lot of people did. All right, question number 9. Cold, sadistic, never showed remorse for what he had done. Richard was convicted of killing 14, but he was connected to how many additional unsolved murders and tortures? Was it A, 8, B, 9, C, 3, or D, 22? Convicted of 14. How many additional murders and tortures was he connected to? 8, 9, 3, or 22? Shh, happens. Oops, I pushed the button by mistake there. I turned my camera off. I have this switch thing on my desk here, and it's got five different five high five to everyone, high five. But it's got 4 different switches on it that are main. And you just push the button and it turns on either different cameras or lights or whatever. And I bumped it and I turned the camera off there. Well, he's looking at me. He is. But this isn't as creepy of a photo as the last one. Make him stop. I'm sorry. Cold, sadistic, never showed remorse for what he had done. Richard was convicted of killing 14, but he was connected to how many additional unsolved murders and tortures? Question number 9. The correct answer is C as in cat. Only 3 additional murders. The same MO was used and found in those 3 additional crimes, but later on, his DNA, after he was convicted and was sent away, connected him to 3 additional murders. But Richard confessed to all 14 murders. He loved to talk by law enforcement about them, but he never confessed to those 3 additional murders that he was connected to. And when they went to him and they said, "Hey, Richard, we found your DNA at these 3 different murder scenes. You never told us about these 3 additional murders." He refused to talk about them at all. Maybe they meant something to him special, and there are a lot of serial killers out there who have, and spree killers, where there is a victim that is special to them and they don't want to talk about it with law enforcement or with anyone. Even if they confide in, say, another serial killer, they'll never talk about it because these crimes are special to them for some reason. Either if the victim really turned them on, if it was a sexual motivation, and there, just about every serial killer has a sexual motivation, or reasoning, with their crimes. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe it was that he had a lot of, anger towards these individuals. It was something, but he refused to talk about those 3 additional ones that he was connected to by DNA. Not really sure, but I thought he was convicted of 13 murders and 5 attempted and 11 sexual assaults, not 14. From what I have here in my notes, it's 14. 14 is what he confessed to. All right. That could be wrong. Could be 13. All right. Going on to question 10. Even serial killers want to be loved. Ha ha ha. That's a joke. 99.9% don't. Yet it doesn't stop others from falling in love with them. Hundreds of women monthly wrote to Richard. Who did he marry? Was it A, Rachel Moore, B, Rebecca Moore, C, Doreen Loy, or D, Mary Ramirez? Even serial killers want to be loved. Ha, that's a joke. 99.99% of them don't. Most serial killers are either a sociopath or a psychopath. They are unable to feel the same emotions that you and I feel. I'm assuming that you're not a sociopath or psychopath by saying that. Starfire is going with C. Mary C. Claudia is going with C. Welcome, Marina. Hi, everyone. I'm late, but wanted to say hi anyways. Well, welcome, Marina. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us tonight. Who ended up marrying and falling in love with good old Richard Ramirez, marrying him behind bars? Lori Vallow. I mean, if Richard was still alive, maybe if Chad believes in that past lives. Maybe between the time that Lori was married to Chad in a previous life, maybe she was married to Richard Ramirez in a past life. Huh? Could have been. Sassy Casey is going with C. Even serial killers want to be loved. Haha. That's a joke. 99.99% of them don't. They could care less. Human lives don't matter to them. People don't matter at all. Animals don't matter. Who ended up marrying Richard Ramirez? That handsome man on the screen. Not me. That guy. Or actually, no, that guy. Him. Chris Watts. Oh. The correct answer to question 10 is C as in cat. C as in cat. Doreen married Richard Ramirez behind bars. All right, question 11. Richard Ramirez didn't kill every victim. He actually didn't start killing his victims until much later on in his reign of terror. What happened to the first victims of Richard's? Was it A, he let them go? B, he crippled them physically? C, he never knew it. They never knew it was him. He wore a sky mask, or a ski mask, it should be. Or D, he drilled holes in their heads, but they lived. What did Richard Ramirez do with the victims that he didn't kill? Doreen makes bad decisions. Yeah. And after Richard, they probably moved on to another. And I know a lot of people would question, and would be curious about this. Why do these women fall in love with serial killers and men that are unattainable? There's a lot of different reasons why women in particular, and some men, are drawn to serial killers, and murderers in particular, especially those who have sentences where they will never be able to live out their actual sentences. And a lot of it stems from psychological point of they've been hurt before in other relationships. Either they were physically, sexually, or mentally abused by a domestic partner, and a serial killer or a murderer who is on death row or locked up and is never getting out, they're safe. Not only does it give them someone to correspond with and communicate with, but they know where that person's going to be at all times. They also know that that person is never going to physically or emotionally hurt them any more than they put themselves out there for it. And they're willing to give these people money. They're willing to support them. They're willing to brainwash themselves into believing that the person is innocent of their crimes because they only believe the person that they're communicating with. So, but that's the main group. And then there's those who are chasing the fame of that person. Like, that person's famous. I wanna be in a relationship with this murderer Now, because of their fame, now you're famous. That's the next group of people who do this. Chris Waters, do you know where your husband is? LOL, right? And like Chris Watts, a good example. I mean, look at all the women who are still writing and corresponding with him and his fan club. And yes, he has a fan club. They have a Facebook group and they have a text group that they actually text each other, updates on, where they are in fundraising for him to get to appeal. There's no grounds for him to appeal. And these people are so bent out of, their minds, but they really do think that he has an avenue to an appeal. No, there are two grounds for appeal only. That was if the court made a mistake or his attorney made a mistake. And every, two-bit lawyer out there that's ever watched or covered the case at all or read anything about it would have known if there was a mistake by the court or his attorney at this point. But these people really, truly believe he has an avenue to an appeal. And they raise money. They send him money. They put money on his books. They send him gift packages. They buy them directly from the commissary online and they give them to him. That skirts the actual money. All the money that goes into his account, 70% of it is garnished to pay to the roost checks, which will never, be able to repay them for what they had to spend out of pocket for the funeral expenses and lawyers and everything else. Would it be fair to say those ladies are not well adjusted? Well, you could say that. I mean, they obviously have. They've been abused. A large portion of these women have been abused, and no fault of their own. If maybe they were married to someone and that person, physically beat them or sexually, abused them or mentally, degraded them, on a constant basis, and they got away from that. Now they seek a connection with someone who they know can't hurt them. So they can't be hurt, like that ever again. And it's not just women. There are men who fall in love with, and who are not gay, who fall in love with, serial killers, and they find a connection with them. Yeah, it's twisted. Psychology is absolutely, it's my favorite thing to study besides serial killers. But anyways, back to this question. The correct answer for question 11 is A as in apple. He let them go. Ladies and gentlemen, long before Richard Ramirez started killing women and breaking into their homes and torturing them and killing them and all that, when he was younger, he molested several children. Yes. And in one famous case, the little girl that he had molested, he just basically, he put her in the car after molesting her 3 or 4 times, took her to a gas station and just let her go. He didn't care. He didn't think anybody was ever going to come after him. And for a large amount of it, no one ever did. Because these little kids were not able to describe who he was. But that was long before he started killing people and torturing them. He was molesting children. They probably all got dropped on the head before the age of 2. All right, question 12. Drugs and alcohol were always an issue for Richard. He started smoking pot at the age of 10 by his account. His cousin says it was age 8. From age of 15 to 21, how many times was he arrested? Between the ages of 15 and 21. So 15, 16, 17 would all be juvenile arrest, and from 18 to 21 would be adult arrest. How many times was he arrested? Was it A, 6 times, B, 8 times, C, 22 times, or D, 4 times? Drugs and alcohol were an issue for Richard. He started smoking pot by age of 10. By his account, his cousin says it was age 8. 144,000. So we are looking for juvenile arrests and adult arrests, 15 to 21. Oh my God. Did not know that he was molesting children when he was younger. Oh, yes, he was. He didn't like to talk about it either. Even I don't know if he ever told Doreen, the total story. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. She visited him an awful lot though. But I don't know if he ever told her in person, but I don't know. Also, I don't think there's any letters out there where he may have written down. But he certainly didn't want to talk about it with law enforcement, other than to say that it happened. But he wouldn't talk about any one victim or victims. And the one was a little girl. I can't remember what her name is, but it's actually out there. If you want to read more about it, it's on the internet. I mean, hell, everything's on the internet, right? Jane A. Good evening, Jane A. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Glad you could be here with us. He was a monster. Yes, he was. The only serial killer that I find interesting at all is Ed Kemper. I mean, they're all interesting in their own twisted ways, but Kemper, there's just something about Kemper and who he is and his abilities, and he could have been anything, but because of the life that he lived, it truly bent him and distorted his version of reality a lot. All right, how many times was he arrested? From between the ages of 15 and 21, the correct answer is A as in apple. A as in apple. He was arrested in 1977, 1979, and 1980 as a juvenile for possession of marijuana. He was arrested again in now it's the juvenile, but those were the 1977, 1979, 1981, 1972, 1974, and 1975. The 72, 74, and 75 were, I believe, he was a juvenile. 77, he should have become an adult by 77. I wrote juvenile at an angle there. Don't quote me though. I do believe 72, 74, and 75. He would have been a juvenile. But all of 6 of his arrests were for possession of marijuana. Mary Jane, the devil's lettuce. All right, question 13. Besides his cousin Mike Ramirez, Richard learned an awful lot from his sister's husband. What did Richard say was the most important thing he learned from his old Uncle Tom, as he called him? His name was Tom, but he called him Uncle Tom. What did he learn from his sister's husband? Was it A, how to remove evidence? B, how to get pleasure from killing? C, how to pick his victims carefully? Or D, how to hide in plain sight from police? What did he learn from his sister's husband, Uncle Tom? Kemper? Didn't Kemper narrate audiobooks? Yes, he did, for the blind. There are quite a few of them. I think the last time I looked at it, there was like a whole list of books. I think it's like 75 or 74 books. It's a lot of them that he did the narrations of everything from Stephen King to horror, some history. He did a lot of books, an awful lot. How to make lamps out of skin. That'd be Ed Gein. Ed Gein made lamps out of skin of his victims. Well, people he dug up from the cemetery. How to make a perfect crate. Besides his cousin Mike Ramirez, Miguel, otherwise known as Mike Ramirez, Richard learned an awful lot from his sister's husband, Uncle Tom. What did Richard say was the most important thing he learned from Uncle Tom, as he called him? What was the one thing he learned? An awful lot of books for an awful lot of books. What did Richard learn from Uncle Tom? Both. A, B, C, and D. It says purple. Well, I mean, I'm going to go with purple. You're correct. I mean, there's no way it could be anything else. One of those is definitely it. A, B, C, or D. All right. What did he learn from his Uncle Tom? The correct answer is D, as in dog. How to hide in plain sight from police. Richard Ramirez's Uncle Tom, as he called him, was a peeping Tom. He had been a dozen different times, I believe. He was arrested for voyeurism, looking into windows of unsuspected victims and pleasuring himself outside of the windows of people's homes. Yes, lovely family. But he taught him how to hide in plain sight. And his Uncle Tom, again, Tom, as he referred to him, Uncle Tom, he got away with it for a long, long time before he was actually caught the first time. And he didn't stop even after being caught. But he taught him how to hide in plain sight. Just look like you are supposed to be there. So no one, if anybody would have been alarmed, they saw him sneaking in through a window or jimmy and open a door, he looked like he was supposed to be there. Yes, he did. He had a lot of great influences, didn't he? All right, question number 14. Where was Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker's very first confirmed murder location? Later, it was learned that this was most likely his second murder, looking at confirmed kill as the Night Stalker. Where was his very first Night Stalker killing? Was it A, in San Diego, B, Los Angeles, C, San Francisco, or D, Bakersfield? Where was the very first confirmed murder as the Night Stalker? I got to open up my tea. I am having just peach tonight. Peach tea. Just peach. Good evening, Stephanie. Welcome to tonight's trivia. This is not sponsored, by the way. I just happen to like these teas. Get them from Costco. Gianna Marie, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a wonderful weekend as well. I don't know. Why was I thinking it was in Texas? So I guess I'm going to guess B. Question number 14. Confirmed, I do not know. Carol R. Good evening, Carol. And welcome to tonight's trivia. We are playing trivia about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Question number 14. Where was Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker's very first confirmed murder location? Sal, love peach tea. The thing I got from Costco, Sal, it had four of each, four of the different flavors. It's like on a whole flat. So the one that I liked so far is, besides the peach, just peachy, is the blueberry one. I like both of those, and I like the plain one as well. Arizona watermelon is so good. I haven't had the Arizona watermelon. I'm gonna have to try that next time. Took the first long weekend off work and been sick the entire time. Oh, I'm sorry, Steph. I'm sorry. That's what happens to me every time I ever take any time off. I either injure myself or I'm sick. Cough due to a cold. Oh, I'm sorry. I think the Pans and or a young girl in San Francisco. Question number 14. E, the Jersey Shore. All right, the correct answer to question number 14 is C as in cat. San Francisco, California is where the very first confirmed murder location was as the Night Stalker. And yes, he did kill a little girl. He tortured her, raped her, and killed her in the basement of the apartment complex. Incidentally, though, additionally, Richard wasn't alone in this actual act. There was the DNA was found of another perpetrator on the little girl, and this was most likely either another teenager or another young male. I don't know if they've ever confirmed who that person is, but the DNA matched someone else who is known, but there's not enough evidence to actually bring charges against that individual. But Richard was not alone in this very first murder, confirmed murder as the Night Stalker, I should say. We now know that this is most likely not his first murder, that it was most likely his second murder, but it was the first one as the Night Stalker. Mi Lung, 9-year-old, I believe it's how it's spelled. It's something like that, Kitty Q. It's close to that. So sad. All right, question number 15. April of 1984, Richard raped and killed a child in San Francisco, California. In 2006, it was learned that DNA evidence placed someone else with him who was never charged because of the lack of evidence. Who did he kill on this date? Look at the comments. You'll get your answer. It's in the comments. Was it A, Mi Lung, B, Shia Dearborn, C. Alice Connor, or D. Mia Hernandez Sosa Margarita? Jersey Shore. I'm sure you'll perk up tomorrow at work. That's. I'm sorry, it's Stefan. I really do hope you feel better soon. LOL, another A, and A. A seems to be a very popular choice. April of 1984. Sorry, Will, I try not to comment so much as to not spoil anything. My apologies. There's no reason to apologize, Kitty Q. It just happened to be a little early. And that's okay. I don't have any ill will about it. We're all just having fun, aren't we? That's what's important. There's no reason to be apologetic for it. 1984, Richard raped and killed a child in San Francisco, California. In 2006, it was learned that DNA evidence placed someone else with him, who was never charged because of lack of evidence. Who did he kill on this date? The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is A, as in apple. Mia Lung, a little girl that he raped, murdered, and tortured in the basement of the apartment complex in April of 1984. Rice Roni, the San Francisco treat. Valued member of our community, you never spoil anything. Absolutely not. I always watch about 4 to 6 hours of whatever our trivia is about. Oh, that's cool, Kitty Q. All right, question number 16. Life wasn't easy for Richard. However, it never gave him the right to kill and torture and rape innocent women and children. At the age of 12, Richard didn't find an interest. He did find an interest that didn't involve any of the above. What was it? What was the interest that Richard found at the age of 12 that didn't have anything to do with murdering, raping, or killing women and children? Was it A, baseball, B, soccer, C, painting, or D, photography? What interest at the age of 12 did Richard find? Carol going with soccer, B. Question number 16. Knitting. The good one, cement shoes. Knitting. Maybe. Ed Kemper, he knits. Well, no, actually, it's not knitting, it's crocheting. Ed Kemper does crocheting. It was one of the occupational classes that they taught them. They're at the state. I don't want to say mental asylum because it's a state hospital where Kemper is. So, but they instead of having metal knitting tools, they're actually plastic, and each one of them has a number on the end of it, so they have to turn them in at the end. So each one is assigned out to the individual. I think pottery, and Demi Moore takes the gold. He's like the wind. Already failed 3 times. Life wasn't easy for Richard Ramirez. However, it never gave him the right to kill and torture and rape innocent women and children. At the age of 12, Richard did find an interest that didn't involve any of the above. What was it? Sal's going with C, Pitching Max C as well, and purple. is going with C as well. Painting. What did Richard find at the age of 12 that didn't involve killing or torturing women and children? We don't fail. We make little mistakes. That is true. There's no failure in this game. This game is all about learning something new and hanging out with our good community and having fun. Carol is sticking with B. All right, question number 16. The correct answer is B as in boy, soccer. He actually played soccer for a couple of years, and he enjoyed the game, and he enjoyed going out and hanging out with his friends. Yes, Richard Ramirez had friends when he was younger, up until the later part of when he dropped out. And then a lot of them, continued to be his friends up until the point when he was arrested. When his family was asked if they ever knew anything about what Richard was doing, they always thought he was just, out there on the edge of society. But they didn't think he was a rapist or a child molester, a killer, or murderer. They didn't think any of these things were possible for Richard. And we learned earlier, his father even tried to perjure himself to give Richard an alibi. All right, I used to play goalie in pickup games with friends. Soccer can be fun. I played soccer for almost 12 years, 11 years. I started in what was called a recreational league in elementary school, and I played all the way through elementary school, junior high school, and then after high school, I played what's called in the state select traveling team. But if I eventually, I would have probably stuck with it a lot longer. But I was traveling 70 miles just to go to practice. And some of the games were 100 miles. I couldn't afford that. I didn't have the money to put gas in my car to be able to drive that far just for practice. 70 miles. That's a round trip, 35 and 35 back and forth. But I love the game. Sounds like soccer makes sense. All right. Next question. Our bonus question, number 1. Richard was apprehended by a mob of citizens who recognized him from the news. Police believe he was going to make an escape on Greyhound bus that same day. However, where was Richard? Was he A, at home asleep? B, returning on a Greyhound, not escaping? C, watching a 23-year-old woman in LA? Or D, at an adult movie house? Richard was apprehended by a mob of citizens who recognized his photo from the news. Police believed he was going to make an escape on Greyhound bus that same day. However, where was Richard? Carol is going B again. Where was Richard on the day he was on? I never understood parents that do that. I have a kid, love her, and would stand by her, but she didn't something terrible. I'm not denying others justice for her misdeeds. It's not fair. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think so, Jane. Um, I have a 25-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. Same wife. There was a little hiccup in between there. We would have had them a lot closer, but my wife tried to leave me with cancer. She got cancer and she tried to leave. but it didn't work. They saved her. But anyways, if my daughter or my son did something, you know, horrible, and God forbid, knock on wood, that they never do, I would stick by them and support them as much as I can. But I'm not going to perjure myself or let them get away with it, with what they did. Shopping at 7-Eleven that had his picture on the front cover of the newspaper. This guy almost got exactly what he deserved. Yeah. Richard was apprehended by a mob of citizens who recognized his photo from the news. Police believed he was going to make an escape on Greyhound bus that same day. However, where was Richard? The correct answer to the bonus question is B as in boy. He was returning back to Los Angeles on the Greyhound bus and walked right past the cops who were all standing there looking and watching every single passenger who was getting onto Greyhound buses to leave the Los Angeles area. Where was Richard? He was in El Paso, Texas, really visiting his brother. And the night before, they released his photo to the news, and he was on the news, the newspaper. He was everywhere, and everybody was studying his face. One lady called him the devil when they saw him getting off of the bus, and Richard made a run for it. And that's when the mob caught up with him. She called him the devil, and then it kept on screaming over and over again, the murderer, but in Spanish, at Richard, until people started looking at him. They're like, hell yeah, that's the guy from the news. But they caught him, and they beat the snot out of him. All right. Next, bonus question. The earliest piece of evidence was a shoe print in a flower bed of one of the earliest victims. They came back to Avia shoes. Only 6 pairs in the size 11 and a half were ever sold. 1 pair in Los Angeles and 5 pair were sold where? Was it A, Dallas, Texas, B, Boston, Massachusetts, C, McCord Air Force Base in Washington State, or D, Tucson, Arizona? The earliest piece of evidence was a shoe print in a flower bed of one of the earliest victims. They came back to Avia shoes. Only 6 pairs sizes 11 and a half were ever sold. Where were the other 5 pairs sold? Takeaway lesson, don't travel Greyhound. This is very interesting. Well, thank you, Pigeon Mac. I'm glad you're enjoying it, though. No idea about this one. Can't remember. One of the earliest pieces of evidence. He did it on purpose, but I didn't look into where they were sold. Good grief. So he don't look all that creepy in this picture, does he? I mean, he still looks a little creepy, but his mouth is shut so you can't see his awful ass teeth. Skidmore, Missouri. What a character. Avia shoes. A very common brand of shoes today. They probably sell millions of pairs of shoes now, but not back then. Back then, they were just a small company, small shoe company. I'm glad he's dead. He was so horrible. Yeah. Bonus question number 2. All right. Where were the other 5 pairs of Avia shoes sold? They were all sold in D as in dog, Tucson, Arizona. All the other ones were sold there. Only one pair was ever sold in Los Angeles, and Richard wore them. How did he die? I think wasn't it liver disease or something like that, or cancer? I can't remember, to tell you the truth, to answer your question, Steph. You might be able to find it on Wikipedia. How well did you do tonight? This is completely optional. If you want to grade yourself on how well you did you get 12 to 16 correct? Could have guessed better. B, 8 to 11, not bad. Improvement though. 4 to 7, just here for the chat and drinks. Or did you get 1 to 3? I fell asleep. Or E, I don't know, correct mountain lion, never a cougar. Completely optional if you want to grade yourself at all. Cancer, lymphoma, there you go. I showed up and had fun. That's what matters, Purple. If you enjoyed tonight's trivia question, please give this a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. I got a B, highest score yet. There you go, Pigeon Mac. Could have done better. Well, of these 18 questions, you might be curious how many I knew before putting this trivia together. Before putting together the 18 questions tonight, I knew exactly 5. 5. That's all I knew. I know who he was as a Night Stalker. I didn't know anything about his past growing up. I didn't know about him sleeping in the cemetery. I didn't know he picked up the game of soccer at the age of 12 to 14. I didn't know anything about him, in that aspect. I only knew about his crimes themselves. I knew 5 of 18. Oh, one of the jurors was shot and died. The other juror got scared, but was a domestic dispute. Yeah. And today is the 10th of September. Oops, that's the 14th. And 10th of September. 10th of September in the book Serial Killer Calendar, this day in killer history, is Jack the Ripper. Anybody ever heard of Jack the Ripper? Is the best known name given to an unidentified serial killer generally believed to have killed and been active in impoverished areas in and around the Whitechapel district of London in 1888. There's more to it than that. I don't want to bore everybody. Kitty Coo told me about this awesome book. You can get this on Amazon. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it's worth every dollar that I did pay for it, though. If you're interested in serial killers, and it's a good read. I've read through it front to back several times. He was initially called the Valley Intruder, amongst other things. Kitty Coo, yeah. He definitely was. Oh, I want a copy. Jane A. You can look up the name Serial Killer Calendar. They make there's a book and there's also other ones out there that sell like a desktop version that you can put like in your cubicle or if you work in an office, and creep out your coworkers. If this doesn't do it, and there's a lot of artwork, by different independent artists. Like there's Harold Shipman, artwork by different. That's Rowan Andrews. Burn, baby, burn. Ted Bundy. You're dead, Ted. 1946 to 1989. But there's all kinds of things like that throughout the entire book. Jeffrey Dahmer. I think it's a great book. I'm glad that Kitty Q told me about it. You thought about having a medical training. Misrepresented the AC/DC song. Was it Nightcrawler? I know he misunderstood the lyrics of AC/DC. Yes, I was going to put that in the trivia tonight, but I was like, eh. And that was one of the things he left behind at one of the murder scenes was an AC/DC hat. That needs to be a T-shirt. The Ted Bundy one, Jane A. That is a T-shirt. Someone who is here in the chat right now has a T-shirt of Ted Bundy, Burn, Teddy Burn, Fry Teddy, or whatever the T-shirt said. Well, the book is great. I'm glad I was able to send that onto the book to you. Well, thank you again, Kitty Q. But yeah, I think it's a T-shirt. I have one. Oh, was it Kitty Q who had the T-shirt or has? Yeah, it is a T-shirt. I don't know if you can get him anymore. Burn, Bundy, burn. I need to find it. Then I'm going to spend all my money tonight. If you want a screenshot, there's the ISBN number. You can probably, if you don't shop on Amazon, I'm pretty sure you can find it on Abe or Alberus or one of the independent online bookstores. I haven't looked for the T-shirt though. Mel. Hey, Will, I've been in and out. Always busy in the morning with school, etc. Well, Mel, I hope you are having a wonderful day in the land down under. Thank you for stopping by this morning. Oh, I'm an Amazon addict. An Etsy. Well, thank you, Kitty Q. The border. Oh yeah, for Ukraine. I did have the border edge that you see around the screen is the Ukrainian flag, but I had the American flag before, and then I switched to a black and white one that you couldn't really see because it was like circles, bubbles. But stand with Ukraine. Good night, y'all. Have a great week. Thanks so much. Well, great as usual. This is before everybody takes off. This weekend is going to be interesting. For the next trivia night, Saturday morning, and the trivia night. I hope that everybody enjoys that one. It's going to be interesting because I'm going to be at home all alone. My wife, my daughter, my mother-in-law, and my nephews are all flying out of Seattle to West Virginia for the Mothman Festival. So they're leaving this week. And then Mel. My wife will be in Australia in November. I think they're leaving either the 13th or something like that. She's flying to Australia with, first they're flying to Tokyo, and then they're going to be in Tokyo for 4 days, and Singapore. They're jumping back and forth 2 days here and 2 days there. And then they're going to Australia, and they're going to be in Australia for a week. I have no idea. I guess they're going to sightsee. I'm surprised that her father actually convinced her to go to Australia, because she's always told me she never wanted to go there because everything wants to kill her in Australia. So, but she's going to be there in November because they purchased the tickets this morning. Mothman Festival, that sounds like so much fun. Yeah. Well, they've got T-shirts and everything that they had made up. So they all, every one of them is going to be wearing their Mothman T-shirts at the festival. They're staying right downtown at the festival, a hotel that's right there in the city square. Why am I not going to the Mothman or Australia? Australia, she's going there with her father, and that's just it's kind of like a combination birthday and Christmas gift for her. And he's always, since he retired, it's hard to keep that man like in one location. He travels the world, and I mean the world, everywhere, and he never goes to like places that are very touristy. He likes to involve in himself in the actual culture of wherever he's going. So Australia, I don't know what they plan on doing there or what they're going to do, but they probably won't be ended up in any kind of tourist event, or some place that's be really interesting. Well, it's interesting to him, but I wasn't invited. No, I when he asked if I wanted to go, I said no. I'm going to stay here because I have a 7-year-old son who I can't just get up and walk away from, and he doesn't want to fly him to to Tokyo and Singapore and back and forth, jet hopping between the two of them, and then on to Australia for a week. I said no. This is going to be a cross your fingers, because my son's taking his very first plane ride this week, and he's going to miss school Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week, and then Monday of next week, while they're gone for the Mothman Festival. So no, there's plenty of things that are here in America that I want to visit and see first before I jet set across the the world. I mean, nothing wrong with Australia or Tokyo or Singapore. I'm sure there's quite a few things there that are there that are interesting, the culture, landmarks, history, to see. But I've been to every single one of the states in the United States. Several of the states, a lot more than others, especially in the South, in the Midwest. I've been to a lot of those states, but just things I want to see here in North America first. One of these days, though, maybe. She's not taking him. Joshy won't let me leave for a night, let alone a holiday. Yeah, yeah, and we're crossing our fingers. For my son. In case you guys are not familiar with this, my son has autism, and he gets overstimulated by sounds, lights, and experiences that are not that are new to him. So when he gets overstimulated, he just shuts down, and he won't do anything. He'll just he'll sit down like in an airport or someplace. He'll just sit down, curl up into the fetal position, and not refuse to move. So they're leaving on Wednesday, and their flight isn't out of Seattle until Thursday morning. But they're leaving a whole day early, so they're going to do a dry run, go to the airport, so he can experience it. You know, the how the whole thing moves and everything else beforehand. And then they got special boarding, um, so he gets to board early with his mom before um, other passengers board the plane. Because if he is rushed or if he has to stand in line, that's it. It's just done, and it takes forever to calm him down and get him, grounded again. So we got everything for him. We got his iPad, his noise canceling headphones. We're doing everything we can think of to try to get it, to make this trip as as much as success as they can. He's got noise canceling headphones. They will help. Yes, he does. He has Bose, 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 however you pronounce that. Noise canceling headphones. Yep. Toes before bros. Have you thought about taking a breath behind a bag and not taking another one? It's fun. You should try it. Hmm. Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna stay home with this weekend. Well, this week while they're gone. I'm gonna be home alone. I haven't been home alone ever. I'm not kidding. There's not gonna be anybody here. Just me. Hoping I can convince my friend Tim to come in town, but probably not. He probably won't. My son, being nearly 15, refuses to wear headphones anymore because he is embarrassed. So always comes home from school with a massive headache. Oh, they have these really I can't remember the name of the company, Mel, but they have they're clear plastic like earbuds that you can buy, and um they're not like an earbud like an iTunes earbud, but they're clear plastic and they actually conform to the actual ear canal. So they work really good, but they're clear plastic and they're almost you can't really see them unless you're looking for them. My son had a pair of those until, well, my dog ate them. Oh my God, there was a troll. I'm sorry. Oh, I saw the person here. That's okay though. No reason to be sorry. There's not that. I read your comment. You're okay. Don't feed them. I just ignore them. I got really good moderators, and they'll take care of them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take off, and I want to say before I go, thank you everyone for joining me tonight for trivia. I really appreciate it. I hope you had just as much fun as I did. Again, tomorrow I will on the community tab here on YouTube. I will post another question by 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on trivia for next weekend, so you get an idea of what the trivia is going to be about. And I thank everyone again, and I hope you all have a terrific week ahead. Purple, we're going to keep your husband and you in our prayers, and I hope that for some improvement in that area as well. And Steph, I hope you get better soon. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great night.
and a terrific week ahead.